Uh, all right. This is probably the hardest one I have done yet of this podcast thingies, because today I'm going to go into my own personal history and I'm going to try to be as honest as I can. And yeah, I don't think it's going to be a big deal, but I think it's just at exactly the right time in my life to do so. Because I've been clean from drugs for a little over 14 years. And just in the last couple of months, I think I've gotten on that stage that I'm kind of totally free from everything that I have done in my life. It has been a lot of work to get to that place, and also what affects it is my kids. I have 3 kids, and they're all on that age now that they know almost everything about my history. So yeah, here goes. I come from a pretty good family, if I say so myself. Didn't have a lot of money, but I have 2 older siblings and a mom and a dad. And they're all great people. And I think that's probably the starting point in my kind of path, because I'm the youngest of the siblings by 7 years, and so they were always many years ahead of me, and kind of in my eyes they were all that kind of people that don't do mistakes. And I know that's not true, but at the time that was somehow what I felt. And I was the kind of motherfucker who always did mistakes. and there was just something in me. I was always doing something wrong. I was always lighting something on fire. I was always breaking stuff. I was kind of always in trouble. I never meant to be, but it kind of just went that way. And I think because I compared myself to my mom and my dad, who were kind of honest to the teeth and really decent and good people, always willing to help others and just good people. And my siblings too, and they kind of just, through my eyes at least, they probably saw it in a different way, but they always did the right thing, and they were always kind of there. And I was always getting in trouble, and I came to that point that when I did something wrong, which was often, like in fall time in Iceland, there's something, I'm not sure what they call it. Yes, you light like pastures on fire, and there's a lot of dead grass there, and you're not supposed to do that, but it was super fun, and I liked playing with fire. And I remember this one time I was doing that. I had this brand new jacket, a bomber jacket. Everybody in Iceland had one. It was black on the outside and orange on the inside, and was kind of like a statement. Everybody had a patch sewed on the back with their favorite band. And yeah, everybody had one. And I kind of got mine on fire, and it just kind of melted the whole under the arm area thingy. And I came home and my mom saw it, and I was like, oh fuck, I must have got my friend's jacket. Oh, what a mistake that was. And I kind of continued that lie for probably 3 fucking months, and it laid on me like a motherfucker. But I just couldn't come to admit it. And I think my mom knew the whole fucking time, but was waiting on me to come clean, and I never fucking did. And this kind of became a pattern of mine because, like I said, I was always getting in some kind of trouble. And I always had older friends too. So when I'm about 12, before I start, we have our school system is a little different from the States. We have something called Gakko, where the teenagers go. And you go there when you're 13. And the summer before I turned 13, all my older friends had started drinking and doing stuff. And so, of course, I just did it too. And I liked it a lot. It kind of grew on me fast because it kind of gave me some newfound freedom that I just didn't have in my regular life. It was a getaway thing. And didn't know then, I know now, if you're doing those kind of things to get away from something, you're not going to wind up in good places. And that's exactly what happened to me. And yeah, so this became every weekend kind of deal. And kids in Iceland during that time had a lot of freedom. And I'm talking about a lot of freedom. If you were outside doing stuff, you were good. And my parents worked a lot. We didn't have a lot of money, so I kind of slipped under the radar. And I had been practicing lying for many years by that time, and I had gotten pretty good at it. So I got away with it for a while. But the thing is, I always got hungover like a motherfucker. I was sick the day after, and we were talking about laying in bed sick. And I always remember this was my first kind of drug experience, and I kind of always knew that I was interested in that stuff. I was never going to do it. I thought it was the wrong thing. But I remember being 11 years old and watching the movie Doors and watching Jim Morrison go through his crazy fucking face in that movie, and what I thought was, fuck, I'm gonna be like that. And I don't know why, but that was just super attractive. And one might think I didn't finish the movie and didn't see the end, but I finished it and I watched it a couple of times, and I kind of just took all the beginning and just did not think about the end. That was not part of the fantasy. And my head kind of just glazed over that part. And yeah, it was the day before it was on a Sunday night. I had lied to my parents. They were going away for that weekend to our summer house. And I had tricked them into staying with a friend of mine who was kind of a good kid. And I slept with him the Friday night. And after that, I told him, oh yeah, mom and dad are home, so I'm just going home again. And I slept with some of not quite the good kids. And we partied a lot Saturday night. We woke up hungover as fuck on Sunday, and we were hanging outside. You know, the candy store was kind of like the neighborhood shop, just a small one with videotapes. What do you call it? Video rental places? Doesn't matter. And sold candy and cigarettes and all kinds of stuff. And we were hanging out there and reading the paper. And we saw this article about magic mushrooms. And they grow like everywhere during the fall in Iceland. And it had a picture of the fucking mushroom and a big scare article underneath. Oh, so dangerous, people are going insane, and oh, you shouldn't do it. And we were like, fuck, we can go get that now? So we went out and picked like a shitload, like a kind of a duffel bag full of them. And we went to my friend's house, who was also home alone. And we ate like a shitload of them, and we had a party, and that was the most awesome experience in the world. And that was something I chased a lot, because this psychedelic thing just hit home somehow. So that became a quite regular thing. Short after that, we met a guy who was selling LSD, and that was kind of just our jam, because it was 1,500 per hit, and it was 12 hours and you were set. so not only did I find it awesome, but it was kind of the cheapest way to get fucked up for 12 hours. And me on a limited budget kind of just was the perfect thing. And there things kind of spiraled, because this meant a lot of lying to my family and a lot of hiding, and I kind of become isolated from my family, because I was always doing stuff they couldn't know about, and that kind of just makes a toxic relationship with your parents and family, because when you're deeply into something and you think it's the most awesome thing in the world, and you have to lie about it to the ones who stand closest to you, that kind of makes you isolated at home. So I kind of switched out the people that meant the most to me to my friends who were doing the same thing. And right about the same time we started smoking hash. We didn't have weed here at that time. We only had hashies or hash, and that quickly became a daily thing. And I think my parents deep down knew what I was doing and what was going on, but denial is a strong thing also. And I was always, though I was always in trouble, I was always kind, and I was always, quiet and easygoing. So I wasn't I wasn't a big mouth kind of guy, and I got away with it for a couple of years, and it just added on and became worse and worse, and the situations become kind of just kind of went from bad to worse. But I always remember we always went to the same place to buy our hash. And I remember, I think it was the first time I came there. This guy has passed away now. He died of that disease, and we went to his home, and in the corner there was a guy called something the Eye. He's still alive, so I'm not going to say his name. And he's doing better though in life. And he kind of woke up coughing. He coughed for like probably a good 10-minute session of and then he got up, and we were smoking out of this thing, which is like a bucket full of water and a 2-liter bucket, and like a head on top, and you just pulled up and took in like 2 liters of smoke. And he did that and coughed for about 10 minutes more, and he had a glass eye. It fell to the floor and it rolled over to my fucking feet. And I watched the motherfucker coughing with one eye and one kind of little bit open one. And I thought the guy was fucking disgusting, and then the guy I was buying from laughed his ass off, and he was missing a couple of teeth because the weekend before he got beaten to shit because of a drug debt. And this was not a wake-up call for a 14-year-old kid. And I thought, okay, fuck, this is cool, but I'm not gonna look as shitty as these guys while doing it. So it kind of makes me think, when people come and talk to kids about not doing drugs, is that really gonna work? Because if a regular kid went to a place like that and saw that, I think he would just turn around in the door and walk away. But I had something in me that just was attracted to that. And I don't know what it was, but it was kind of just the getaway and kind of being a wild kid or something. I don't know. But yeah, things kind of took off, and by the time I was 17, I was not doing very good. I was always fucking broke. I was always owing money all over town. And I remember being 17 and I came home, and this was a regular thing. I went out on Friday night, and we didn't have cell phones back then, or at least it wasn't common. We had pagers. And so I went out Friday night and I just disappeared until Sunday, Monday or something. And I was doing a lot of damage to my family because everybody was kind of into what I was doing, and nobody was happy about it, and they were always trying to intervene, and I kind of just hate them for it. It was my life. I'm free to do whatever the fuck I want. This is my thing. I'm not doing anything to them. And I was just totally blind to the damage I was doing around me. I just couldn't get over all the fucking meddling. They're always meddling with how I want to do my life, and I remember I had a diary back then, and it was all filled up with stupid shit like successful living through chemistry and all kinds of stupid stuff. And I kind of pictured that I was gonna be this wild drug guy doing all kinds of cool stuff and kind of just making it. And the funny thing was, I wasn't doing anything to make it. I was flunking out of schools. I was working a sales job in this hardware store, and I was kind of going nowhere with this big ideas that I was going to be somebody without applying me to anything. So I'm not quite sure what I thought I was going to make it as, but I was sure I was going to be big. Which is kind of funny and hilarious, but that's how the situation was. And I remember that weekend when I came home on a Sunday night, and all my family was waiting there for me, and it was kind of like an intervention thing. And I was feeling not a little low. I was feeling down in the dumpsters low. I had been eating ecstasy a whole weekend, and I owed a lot of money, and they kind of just put the chair in front of the door and just said, hey, there's only two options here. The first option is you're moving out of here if you continue on this path, or you're going to rehab. And like everything, if I am faced with options, I'm going to take the easier one. And the easiest one was just saying yes, so I was off the hook. And I thought I would have like a week to talk them out of this shit and show them I was changed, but they woke me up the morning after and they drove me down to the rehab center. And I was like, fuck, fuck, now I'm in it, man. And they drove me to this rehab center in Iceland, and it's a funny deal. You come in there and you give them your bags, and you kind of give them your clothes, and you put a night robe on. And everybody in there is wearing one of those robes and pajamas and stuff. And I walked in there not knowing what the fuck I just stepped into. And this was just before Christmas, and I was 17 and something. And the funny thing which I know now, didn't know then, but during the holidays, the worst addicts in Iceland come into rehab. That's kind of just the bottom of the barrel kind of stuff. If you're living on the streets, it's usually around that mid-December, all the shadiest characters in Iceland come to rehab. So I got smack into that, and there were a lot of like old guys and guys that have been moving a lot of drugs and all kinds of stuff, and I was, yeah, I was not sure what I got talked into, but I'm not gonna lie, it's a pretty good rehab. It kind of opened my eyes where my life was heading, and I took a decision during that time that I was gonna turn things around, because I hadn't been, the last couple of years before that, the good times kind of faded, and it was kind of just a repeat thing. Every day smoking, all the weekends doing something else, and you know, the psychedelic stuff had kind of turned on me. The trips became dark and ugly, and my life wasn't pleasant, and I just wasn't enjoying it anymore, and it had become a habit. And I took like a sincere decision during that time that okay, this chapter in my life is finished. Now I'm just gonna go out. I'm gonna get a good job, maybe go to school, and I really meant it, and I really believed that was gonna be it. And I went in for 1.5 months, I think, in rehab, 10 days during that. I don't know where it's like a medical thing where you come down and then you're shipped out on the country, and there's a kind of a rehab thingy going on with group chats and counselors and stuff, and I learned a lot, and I met a lot of people, and a lot of those people I met back then are not living anymore, and that's kind of the reality of addiction, that if you're around a lot of addicts, you're gonna experience a lot of death also, and that's just kind of the reality of the thing. And I came out of that after Christmas. I spent Christmas in there, which was weird, and I kind of went out all kind of happy and blissful, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna make it, it's gonna be good, it's nice to have closed that chapter in my life, and got a lot of good information. You go to meetings, you do all kinds of stuff, and I did none of that. I hit the tanning salons hard, got tanned, got a job, bought a cool car, kind of just, yeah. And I thought for a couple of months there, I thought that was it. I was good. But it didn't go into any of the personal work I should have gone into. And after about 3 months, life got pretty stale, to say the least. It was just kind of, yeah, I was not in a good place. I had done none of the work you need to do to recover, and I was barely going to some meetings, got to know no one there, did nothing, and I kind of just sticked it out for about 5 or 6 months. I can't remember. It's a couple of years ago since. And after about, I think, 4 months, I started talking to all my old friends and just giving them a lift when they was partying, and it's okay. I was still clean, but after 5 months, I decided just that this was not worth it. I was not having a good time. I was feeling bad, and life was just gray and colorless, and I just needed something. And I decided to go have a smoke with my friends. And I will never forget this moment, because this is probably the first time that the high kind of cheated me, because I thought as soon as I would take the first hit, I would be good. It would be the same old getaway and I would feel cool and everything would be cool. But that didn't happen. Now I had all this information about what I was doing, and just as soon as I swallowed that first puff, the guilt just rode in. And I took no pleasure from that. It immediately went to paranoia, and the first thought was, fuck, they're gonna see it in my eyes, I'm gonna get busted, and the whole nightmare is gonna continue. I'm gonna be a huge disappointment. I really fucked things up, and yeah. It didn't go that way. I waited the appropriate time and I got home and went to sleep and nobody found out nothing. But yeah, I was back in. And then started probably, I cannot say it was the worst years of my life, unfortunately, but it was not a good time for being me. I was kind of rolling in between trying to be clean and using, not feeling good while I was using, and feeling worse when I was not. And I got a couple of months clean, I fell off again, did a couple of months back, and life was just fucking miserable. I was still working, but kind of nothing was working and nothing kind of gave me happiness. And I had like probably around 2.5 or 3 years in that situation, and just like a constant disappointment to my parents, and a lot of non-sleep nights for them, worrying about where I was, what I was doing, and I was just out trying to forget it all. And I think I was around 19 or 20 when I kind of I gave up on life, basically. I just gave up on the whole thing. I took a conscious decision. I packed my suitcase and said goodbye to my parents, and I didn't have anywhere specific to go, but I kind of just went away from home and I said, this is what I'm going to do now, and I think it would be best that we don't talk. And I went out with that state of mind that I was just going to finish it as fast as I could. And I went at it hard. And I never slept in the streets. I knew a lot of people, and I knew a lot of people that partied all day, every day. And this is kind of where things shifted from me being a user to me starting to sell drugs also and do crime. And I had never been there. And I think because I had a good upbringing, I knew right from wrong, I had a lot of good things passed on to me from my parents and my siblings, and that was kind of, I hit that place where I just didn't care anymore. I just didn't want to be. And I remember taking some kind of decision, I think about a year into that now there's no wrong and right anymore. There's only fun and boring. And that was a huge shift within myself. And I was doing all kinds of crimes, breaking into places, and just doing all kinds of stuff to fund my using, and hanging around with 20 some years older people than myself, and hardcore criminals in Iceland. And yeah, I was just trying to finish it off with a bang. And during that time, I met my first wife, which I have 3 kids with today. And that kind of, I thought, saved my life at the time, and it probably did, because I had already went to the hospital without a heartbeat, and all kinds of crazy stuff had happened, and I was succeeding what I planned out to doing when I met her, and she kind of changed that. I fell in love, and for the first time in like 2 or 3 years, I had someone, if you know what I mean. I was not alone. And I, honest to God, thought that this was going to be the thing that changed everything. This was the missing piece. This was the missing piece for me being a happy person. And for a while, it worked out that way. Well, I slowly started to talk a little bit to my parents and my siblings, but it was concrete, clear that it was on my terms. We did not talk about drugs and drug problems. That was not on the on the topic list, and I was an asshole. But that was kind of it. It was, we could have like a relationship, but this was off limits. I was still smoking all day, every day, and I was still using on the weekends, but we had a place to live. Something had changed, a little stability in all the chaos, and yeah, we had a couple of good years, which on my scale back then were pretty good. And of course that was doomed not to last, but I didn't see it that way back then. 2 years later, we had our first kid, Heiðar, which is an awesome kid. And I remember then and there, I took the most, I think the deepest decision that I have ever taken. I knew I was not going to be that guy to have kids and running in these circles. I just knew that because I wasn't brought up that way, and I was not going to be that guy. And I remember this like it happened yesterday. When you're selling drugs in Iceland, you have kind of a scale and you have all kinds of stuff, and I just sold all that stuff, banged the table and said, now I'm quit. And I went out and got a job. And I should note though that this happened probably the same night he was born. I did not have the willpower to do this while my wife was pregnant. And yeah, I took that decision and I meant it with all my heart. I really did. And I went out and got a job. I was always good getting jobs and stuff. And I remember going to work, coming home after work, hugging my newborn son, which I loved with all my life. And then he got fed and went to sleep, and we sat down on the couch, and the first thought that came into mind, it's not going to hurt anybody to have a joint now. He's asleep, nothing's on the table, it's just going to be a light kind of buzz, and things will go on. And I did that. The day after, around noon, when I got my dinner break, I went out and smoked, came back. After that work day, I took a conscious decision that this was not going to cut it. The wages at that work was not going to pay for my using and living. So my kind of morals shifted. And the decision was, it's never going to look like a druggy home. There's never going to be anything on the tables in here. And the line just shifted. And I started selling again, and pretty soon my using was back to normal. And that kind of became okay in a sick and twisted way. And things escalate from there. Our marriage is starting to go bad. A lot of lies, a lot of deception, and a lot of hurting, and we were not in a good place. And she gets pregnant again 2 years later with my girl Jenny, and I took the exact same decision, and I meant it as much as I did the first time. And it lasted for about the same amount of time as it did before. And by that time, I've become pretty sick. I was dealing with all kinds of mental issues. I was hearing things, I was seeing things that weren't real. And our relationship has become toxic. And I was finding me in places that I thought I would never find myself. I had become the person just a couple of years before I despised. And yeah, our home always looked clean. Everything looked a-okay on the surface, but that was about it. We had nothing to give, and that was the reality of things. I thought we were doing okay. I kind of convinced myself we were doing good. They went to kindergarten in the morning, always on the correct time. There was always dinner at the right times, and I thought that was enough, kind of. And I remember when our third one came to be, we were living in a big house in Hafnarfjörður, which is a suburb of Reykjavik. And I just lost my shit totally. I was using a crazy amount of drugs every day. I was using methamphetamines. I was using ecstasy. I was using everything, coke on the weekends. I was smoking a lot of weed back then. I was a wheat farmer by then, and I just lost all grip with reality. I remember a night when I thought there were secret passageways into the house. I kind of tore everything off the walls inside, went outside and took up the pavement looking for secret entrances. I could hear people in the walls. And I was dying, honestly. And my mental state was that way that I always had deep-seated paranoia that everybody was fucking with me. And when I say everybody, I mean fucking everybody. Her mom, her sister, the whole family, even my dog sometimes. And I kind of knew this was my head tricking me. And I always just kept it at bay. And then some fucked up thing happened, a song came on the radio, and reality kind of shifted, and it was all fucking real. By that time, I found out a lot of stuff in our marriage, and I became abusive husband. And that was something so low, I thought I would never be that guy. I knew myself. I was a decent fucking guy, but that just became my reality. And yeah. By that time, Child Protective Services was constantly, for about 3 years, working our case. And we were sneaky fuckers, and they had a hard time catching us in the act. But yeah, I had a moment where I got super violent, and yeah, things could have gone a lot worse than they did. And this is something I feel deep shame about, because this was kind of my darkest hour. And I thought I would never say this to anybody. I would never admit this to anybody. And yeah, That morning I almost killed my wife, and it came close. And it didn't happen. My daughter came down, and I panicked, and I just went out, and I walked out the door, and I had no plan. I just knew everything was fucked, and this has been that time. The insanity has been constant for about a week, where I knew everybody was against me and everybody was fucking plotting against me, and the guys who had the wheat farm with me, and this is hilarious though, because they were pretty big guys. One of them was 2 meters and pretty buffed, and I was weighing about 48 kilograms. I'm not sure what that is in in pounds, but it's not a lot. And I got it in my head that they were cheating me, so I broke in his house. He was sleeping in his bedroom, and I took all his stuff, and I was so insane that he just looked at me and just, I'm not gonna fuck with that. And he just let me. And so at that time I had about 300 plants in the basement of our house. And yeah, and I kind of knew walking out the door that everything kind of went sideways. She hit me in the back like really fucking hard. I looked the way back, and there was a knife sticking out of my shoulder, and it was a moment. It was a big moment, because I have had a couple of times in my life where I kind of fucked up big time, and I knew I was at a crossroads. I could take that path and keep going the way I was going, or I could do something else. And these moments usually got me into rehab. I skipped a lot of shit out of my history. I've gone to a lot of rehabs. But then and there, I had one of those moments with the fucking knife sticking out of my back, screaming at her, take it fuck out. And I kind of knew that I was at crossroads, and that hadn't happened in about probably 5 or 6 years. And it was a fucking relief. I knew cops would come at my house. I knew everything was going to go to shit. I had a lot of drugs in the house. And yeah, I took my dog and I went for a drive. And for the first time in, like I said, for 5 or 6 years, I thought, this is an opportunity. Something's going to change. Everything is gone to shit. Now is an opportunity to change things. And I had troubles breathing, because apparently it went through my shoulder blade and into my lung. So I had to drive to the fucking hospital. And yeah. And this is the fucked up thing about disease. The disease of addiction. That I had this moment, and it was profound. I knew something was going to change. I knew Child Protective Services were going to have their ways. I knew I was going to get busted on a lot of things. And I went to the hospital. I woke up the day after, and I had a better idea. I think, okay, I'm going to pull this back together. This is probably not so bad. And that's kind of how this fucked up disease works, in a way. You can have a profound moment like that where you know things have to change. You're going nowhere. And if you don't seize that moment and do something about it, it's going to go away. It's going to fade away, and you're going to trick yourself into... Because I'm a master at kind of waking up, everything is fucked up, and just pull shit out of my ass just to make things calm again. And I always thought that was one of my biggest ups in life, to have that ability to kind of just pull things together and just calm everything and make things work. And I was walking out of the hospital when police arrives and take me in. And it pissed me off at the time, but looking back now, I know that was one of the things that kind of saved my life, because they saw I was I was dangerous and I was in no state of walking the streets. And I had a lot of speeding tickets and they pulled me in on that. And back then, during that specific time era, they had no rooms in the jails in Iceland, and nobody was getting checked in for speeding tickets and unpaid fines, but they used that just to get me off the street. And I was super pissed off at that back then, but looking back on it now, I'm just super grateful, because I'm not sure how things would have played out if that hadn't happened. And yeah, they pulled me in. I went into it's kind of back then it's downtown Reykjavik, a small fucking jail, and everybody that gets picked up, they begin there and then they're shipped up to somewhere else. And they had me for a month or so, or 2 months, I can't remember. And I just remember just walking in there and thinking, okay, this is it. I'm going to clean my fucking act. And I walked in, there's kind of a hallway with rooms, and that's basically the whole fucking jail. A small courtyard, one hallway with about 8 rooms or something. And I'm walking down the hallway, and the first guy that I meet is a guy that owed me a lot of money. And the first fucking thing that came out of my mouth was, "Do you have something?" And that was it. And he had something, of course. And then the decision was, after I do this jail thing, I'm going to turn things around. And this is the fucked up thing about things, because I knew if I wanted to keep my kids, I had to be clean. And that's just not enough to deal with this. To have something on the line is not enough to clean up your act. And it's sad, but that's kind of the way it works. I got to finish that sentence off in a rehab center, the same one I went into when I was 17. By that time, I have had a lot of visits there. And Child Protective Services came and talked to me, and we temporarily lost custody of our kids. Thankfully, my mom and my dad took them in. I will always be thankful for that. And I really decided to do this thing. I was in a daytime rehab thingy. You came in about 9 or 10, or you were doing programs and stuff until 10. And that was a requirement that I had to finish that if I wanted custody again over my kids. And I was doing that. And I found a job, and I somehow got that in my head that I was in a bad situation. I had lost everything. I had nothing. I was living at my mom and dad's house, 26 years old, with 3 kids and a dog. And it was not a good time. And I started going to meetings, and I didn't start going to meetings because I wanted to go to them. I didn't go because I thought they would do something for me. To be honest, I went because I just couldn't bear sitting in the living room with my mom and dad after the kids went to sleep. I just couldn't do it. I had too much fucking guilt. I had kind of taken years of their lives worrying about me, not sleeping, not feeling good, and I just I just couldn't look at that. I just couldn't be there. And that fucking saved my life. It did. Because I started going to meetings every fucking night because of that reason. And also when I look back now, I can kind of trace my recovery back to one guy. This one guy at the meetings who kind of followed me when the meetings were off, knocked me on my shoulder and said, "Hey, Bjarki, we need someone like you to come to be in the core of this meeting, just to do service and stuff." And to be honest, I went to this meeting feeling like fucking dog shit because my kind of case went to the newspapers. And just a week before I came out of jail, there was like a whole page with the whole half of that with a picture of me and big bold letters underneath saying domestic violence gets drug couple arrested or something in those lines. And it was rough because that was the one thing I really felt fucking guilty about. I felt so ashamed that I was that guy. I thought I would never have that in me. And I was never a violent guy during all my using, but that's probably my deepest shame about that. And I had that plastered all over the fucking newspaper, the thing I was most ashamed of. And I thought I was having a fucking rough deal, but looking at it now, that was also one of the things that fucking saved my life. Because if I hadn't had to face that, I'm not sure that I would have gotten results. Because keeping that secret would have fucked me over. And yeah, like I was saying, this guy knocks me on the shoulder and say, "Hey, Bjarki, do you want to come be a part of our meeting?" And I got all weathered up, stopped feeling bad because I had no social skills. My social skills were down to drug deals. I could do that. I could talk about that. But having normal chit-chat conversation, I was not able to do. I just didn't know how. And I felt like shit. And when you feel like shit, you're not kind of in the right mind space to meet new people. And I was fucking alone. I was so alone, I was going to movie theaters alone. And because all my friends and all the people I knew were doing the same stuff I was doing. I knew nobody that were doing something else. So I had to start from scratch. And that guy handed me the fucking golden ticket. I did not see it in that light at the time. I was offered to be a greeter person or something at that meeting, and yeah, I thought that was way below my standard. I thought I was going to be something important. I thought that was the lowest of the low. It isn't, but that was my feeling. And that's kind of how this thing works for me, at least, that when somebody tries to hand me a helping hand while I'm in that situation, I kind of feel like he's handing me a bag of fucking dog shit. And I don't want nothing to do with it. But looking back at that time, that saved my fucking life. I became a part of that meeting. That was the first time that happened to me. And I found some kind of peace of mind doing that service, something I had not experienced before. And something else funny happened during that same time. I could kind of see for the first time in my life that I was in a really fucked up spot. And I was probably not going to be able to change it. Because I had tried a lot of times to change stuff. And I just kind of made peace with that I was this kind of guy. And slowly but surely, I started to feel a little better. And I kind of just just dove in head first into that meeting situation and these steps and all this shit. And I really gave it my all. And an unbelievable thing happened pretty fucking soon, that life got manageable. I'm not saying it went perfect. I still had a shitty situation. I was having custody fights with my ex-wife. We were going to trials because of the domestic abuse thing. We were fighting over the kids. I was still trying to get custody from Child Protective Services, and life was hard. I started working in this construction work, which I thought was way below my respect level. It was a low job, but something inside of me had changed. I kind of realized, okay, I have this. I don't have anything else. I'm gonna fucking do it. And this is something just I learned in there, that you just have to approach life from where you're at. And yeah, that took me places. It really did. And like I said, life became manageable. And the way things kind of played out was that I started renting the place through Child Protective Services. They got me a kind of place which the city owns. And I moved in there with my 3 kids, and I made it work. And with a lot of help from my mom and dad. A lot of help. They made it so that they babysat for me when I had to go to my meetings. And when I was working a little bit over the time, they went to pick up my kids at kindergarten, and they gave me all the support in the world. And I am forever in debt for that. And for the first time since I was a kid, life was kind of getting good. I made a lot of fucking mistakes all over the fucking place. But I didn't do a lot of the mistakes again and again. I learned from it, and that was new too. And I was practicing being honest, and that was fucking hard because I lied every other sentence. It was kind of just a habit. Somebody asked me where I was not going to tell them where I was going to tell them something else. It didn't matter. I had no reason to do it. It was just kind of a bad habit I had. And it was awkward correcting that, because I kind of made a conscious decision that I was going to be brutally honest, and that was just something I had to do. And yeah. And I'm telling you, life became fucking good. I did that construction work for a couple of years, and it wasn't my dream job, but I was getting paid all right, and I wanted to do more. And so we got caught in that situation where the guy we were working for, me and my business partner now, were working for him, and he was not doing his job correctly and was not paying us. And the guys he was building houses for asked us to take over. And I'm quick on my feet. I saw an opportunity. My partner had a lot of tools, so I took all the money I had saved up and I bought a lot of tools, the tools we needed to get that job done. We went to a meeting with a guy we worked for and said, hey, this is not working, you're not paying us, they want us to take over. We just want to tell you that in advance. We don't want to go behind your back with it. And he was a little pissed off, but also thankful for we being straight up. And there I started to run my own company with my partner. And that just kind of took off, and which was pleasant because I didn't have a lot of job options. and yeah. I'm not sure where I'm going with this, but we've been doing that for 12 years. No, 14 years, man. Time flies. And we came to a place where our company started to grow, and we decided we were going to be millionaires. And I thought that was something I really wanted. And I got caught up in that. And I was doing more time at my job that I should have, and less time on my meetings. And then the financial crash in Iceland came, and it flatlined just overnight. And I'm just so fucking grateful how my life has turned out, because that was a brutal wake-up call, and a fucking good one, because I was caught up in the trap. I was going to work, I'm going to have a lot of money, and kind of my main focus in life kind of took me there. And when all that got wiped out, I kind of had nothing. I had my kids, I had me, and nothing. And I had become this business guy, kind of. And I found out there for the first time that was just not enough. I could not put my whole self-esteem into jobs. And we had to figure stuff out. We had to do all kinds of stuff. And we just kept rolling with it. And I could not see a way out of it. I just thought I was going to lose everything that I had built. And I came to the decision that a wheat farm is not that bad of an idea. And I had, I think, 3 or 4 years clean back then. And this idea kind of snuck up on me. And I did not do the right thing. I did not talk about it to anybody. I just kind of let it simmer. And slowly but surely, I was still going to my meetings, but I was just filling a seat. I was not really there. I was not doing anything. I was not listening. I was not being honest. I just had my regular seat, drank coffee, and waited till it was over, and then I went home. And all of a sudden, this idea was perfect, and I was going to do it. And I had a meeting in a jail, which I was kind of took that responsibility. And that night, I had a meeting there. And the first thing that I said was, the first dishonesty that gets you fucked up again. And I hurt myself. And I kind of woke up brutally. And I said, okay, I'm in trouble. And I had to do it all over again. The same things I did in the first time, I had to do all over again. And things kind of just worked out. And I got a fresh set of eyes, and that saved my life. Right about that time, I met my wife, who I'm married to today. And that's probably one of the most awesome things in my life, meeting that person, because I got to have an awesome relationship. I fell head over heels in love. She was younger than me, 10 years younger than me. I had 3 kids, and I had about 3% hope that this was going to work out, because I thought, who in their right mind is going to take that on? A guy and his 3 fucking kids and his dog. And she just powered through it. And she became an awesome fucking mom to my kids. And we have a truly awesome relationship. We support each other. There's no business agreements anywhere. If she wants to do something, I'm just go for it. Go for broke. Do it. Give it your all. And if I want to do something, she's the same. And I had never experienced this before. She knows everything about me. And I know everything about her. And we can take hard decisions. We can go through hard times. We can go through good times. And life's just good. And yeah, I'm truly blessed for that. Then a couple of years longer down the line, I again got the idea that I was going to be a millionaire. and it's funny how that works. And we got very close. Our company became big, and we had a lot of money rolling through. And I just added on, and I was going to get super rich, super fucking fast. And we got unlucky in a couple of deals, and when you're doing construction at that level, there's a lot of money invested in each project, and it's sensitive. And things kind of went out off the rails. And we went bankrupt. And that was hard, because I had given it my all. I did not have nothing that time as the first time. I was still doing my things. I still had my life. I still had my wife. But nonetheless, these were hard times. And yeah. But these were also very fucking good times, because I kind of learned through that one that I'm not interested in being that guy. It's not a fulfilling life. It's a trap. And I got caught in the trap. And though that being hard, and financially it was very hard, we have almost paid everything, all of our subcontractors. We have almost cleared everything we have to clear. And we're at that place now, and we're still working together, and it's good. He's one of my best friends. We've been working together for 14 years, and it's been good. But now I'm kind of at that place that I'm making room in my life to be a dad, and also doing things I want to do. I founded a band with some of my friends. This is awesome. This takes up one night a week, and this is it's very fulfilling, because I've always wanted to do that. I've played guitar since I was 12 or something, and yeah, it's good. We're on our way to make our first record, and that's just because we want to do it, It's not because we want to become huge stars or anything like that. We just want to do it, and it's fun. And about a couple of months ago, I got it in my head to do this podcast thing, and that's also something I really love to do. And the funny thing about it is, it's the same deal. I'm just doing it because I love to do it and I want to do it. And through my crazy life, I've gotten to meet a lot of cool people doing cool things. And I wanted to use this podcast thing as to just project something positive in the world. Just to kind of talk to people that have been through rough times and gotten through it, and are doing things they love and living their lives to the fullest. And that's what I hope to kind of project out of this, that it's a positive thing. And I also just love to do it, so I'm going to continue. Yeah, that's basically, I think, where I'm at today. So, thank you.